Hello everyone, I'm back. It's been 2 years. We were traveling a lot, and I have a lot of travel videos from that. And then we came back to the States, we bought a house, I got a job. Now we're thinking we're gonna sell our house. So I quit my job and I find myself with a little bit more time again. I'm really excited to get back into my channel and talk about things that I enjoy, make it more lifestyle, a little bit more slower pace, a little bit more cozy. I'm babysitting some birds right now. And I have a winter storm outside, so I have some snow, have some birds chirping. It's a great ambiance. And we're gonna talk about books. Reading and I have a complicated relationship. I used to love reading when I was little. I read a lot of fairy tales, folklore, mythology growing up. And then I went to college, and throughout college, I was reading a lot of technical stuff. I got burnt out. Now I'm trying to get back into reading, and that's been a journey, and I think I'm finally there. That's a completely different video. But for today, we're gonna talk about my top 5 books. And this is specifically in the fantasy genre. So these are kind of the books that took me by surprise, that I was really impressed by, and that I feel bring a little bit more depth and not as much drama in the fantasy genre. So that rhymed. That was very cool. And we're going to get started. The first one that I wanted to talk about is Robin McKinley's Deerskin. So Robin McKinley has written several fairy tale retellings. She did 2 Beauty and the Beast retellings, which is how I first found her. And then she also did a Sleeping Beauty retelling. I was scouring around on Reddit because I enjoyed her books and I wanted to try something a little different. And I saw Deerskin mentioned, and it was a dark fairy tale retelling, and I bought it and decided to give it a little bit of a read. It was darker than I expected. That being said, that darker part happens early on in the book, but really the majority of the book is actually focusing on healing, on moving past trauma, on making a new community for yourself, of feeling safe again in your own body and with people around you, and a little bit of animal friends along the way. So the plot is, as Princess Lasar reaches womanhood, it is clear to all the kingdom that in her breathtaking beauty, she's the mirror image of her mother, the queen. But the seeming blessing forces her to flee for her safety from her father's wrath. With her loyal dog Ash at her side, Lasar unlocks a door to a world of magic where she finds the key to her survival and an adventure beyond her wildest dreams. This book is written so beautifully. It is a slower read because of that. It has more of an ambiance and honestly a little bit of a cozy vibe to it, which is very surprising for me when I first picked it up. I was not expecting that. Basically, it almost poetically describes what it's like to go from the darkest moment in your life and finding yourself become stronger as time goes on from that, and what is it that actually grounds you. And for Lasar, the author uses a lot of soft, kind of quiet moments in nature to do this, and a lot of pondering on Lasar's part. And you're really understanding her inner dialogue. And I have to say, the dog aspect in this book was so powerful. The idea that her companion, her doggy companion that's kind of walking with her from the very beginning of all these terrible circumstances, and then through her journey of becoming stronger, I just found it to be super, super endearing. The reason it is number 5 for me is, again, it was a little bit of a slower read. Another thing is actually the ending. The ending, her final kind of defeat over everything that's happened to her was a little weird. I wasn't expecting it, and I didn't really like it as much as I thought I would, but I could see where the author was coming from, and she was definitely playing into the more fantasy side. I feel like I need to reread the book to really understand what she was trying to get across at the very end. It still ends well, but I'm just saying there's like a part there that I just felt was like a little interesting. This book is meaningful, it is sweet, there's a lot of beautiful moments in it. I think it deserves more attention. For book number 4, we have a very popular one right now. A lot of influencers are talking about it, and I understand why. It is The Will of the Many by James Islington, and we essentially follow our main character, Vis Telemus. He starts off as an orphan, and he ends up working his way into the politics and mysteries of the hierarchy. And the hierarchy is basically what this whole kingdom, this whole world is built on. And it's essentially that you have lower parts of society ceding their will to those above them. And it's basically like a pyramid. When you cede will, essentially what you're doing is you're kind of offering, you're voluntold to give, your physical strength, your mental clarity, your mental strength to those above you. And so as you go up the pyramid, people have more independence, they're a little bit more skilled, they have more physical strength, they have sharper minds, they're able to move objects with their minds, all because those below them are giving them pieces basically of their energy, you could say. This leads to the lower pieces of the hierarchy being more fatigued, basically only able to do menial labor. And it's a very interesting take on basically kind of like a Roman world. You could say there's a lot of Roman vibes in the names, the places that what they're called. So I found that to be very interesting. But this book, it has it all too. It also has academia setting. So our main character goes into an academic setting in order to solve a mystery. And he's actually in the middle of spy work. There's two different people who are trying to get information from him or using him to get information from others. And at the same time, we're also processing what has happened to his family in the past and how he was navigating this world as an orphan. It's a very interesting read. It's almost sci-fi, I would say. It kind of walks the border of a lot of different genres, and that's why I find this so entertaining. And it was actually a very easy read. It's definitely like a high fantasy, epic fantasy feeling, but the reading is so easy and casual. I felt like I was kind of immersed into the world. So I'm just gonna say, read The Will of the Many. The second book just came out and it's also very good so far. I'm still reading it, but highly suggest this one as well. So book number 3 for me is The Princess Bride. I don't have it with me right now, so I will show it up here on the screen. I actually lent it to somebody. It is so good. So good. I mean, we all know the movie and it's a classic. The screenwriter for the movie also wrote the book. And I have to say, he does an incredible job of taking the characters that we know and adding even more vibrancy to the story. He takes all the characters and gives them backstories, and the backstories are even more interesting than the main plot line. I would say Wesley and Buttercup are actually kind of like sub-characters in this, making way for Inigo Montoya, Fezzik, and Vincini. You really get to know them. They're very colorful. Humperdinck is actually a huge part of the story, and I found him to be an incredibly interesting character, the way he was written. There is a lot of basically side notes from the author kind of written throughout the book, and he's talking about how he found this story and how he, you know, is sharing his story with his son and just stories from shooting the film. So it takes really about a lot of fiction and it kind of pulls it into the real world in a way, and I just found it so entertaining. It's really developed my love of humor within fantasy. So do yourself a favor, go buy The Princess Bride. Let me know what you think of it, and I will guarantee it'll be just as fun as the movie, if not more. It'll really surprise you. All right, book 2. Book 2 is The Fool's Errand by Robin Hobb, and I'm being a little tricky when I suggest this book because what I'm really suggesting are the 3 trilogies that basically encompass this character. So the first trilogy is the Farseer trilogy, and it begins with the Assassin's Apprentice, where we meet a young Fitz, who is the son of a prince of a kingdom. And he is brought at a young age into royal life in court, and basically into all the politics that come with that. And he basically doesn't have the presence of his mother or father to help him with this. Instead, he has various different guardians that kind of come alongside him and help him through this journey, but there's a lot of discussion about where he fits into this world. Some people don't want him to be there at all. They would actually rather him be dead. And there's some people who do want him to be there because they see his usefulness. The Farseer trilogy basically follows Fitz as a young boy to a young man. And then the Tawny Man trilogy is basically as he is in his manhood. I love this book so much. It is worth reading the first 3, even to just read this book. The first 3 are amazing, but you really get to see Fitz come into his own in this book, and you become very proud of him. You see a lot of things from the first trilogy come full circle. There are moments where you can get really annoyed with Fitz, and there are moments where you're really proud of him, and I think it's like he's like a friend. So in this world, there's 2 types of magic. There's one called the wit, where people can bond with and communicate with animals, and then the other type of magic is the skill, and this is where people of the royal line tend to have this magic, and they can influence other people's actions and also telepathically connect to people or talk to them. It's kind of sporadic, and you need a lot of training in order to make it work. It feels grounded in realism though. The magic doesn't feel too far-fetched, but you're really reading this for the main characters, and the world happens to really elevate the story in a special way. So I would definitely suggest this. It is high fantasy, but there is something about it that's very grounding. I think it's just all the character work that goes into this. It doesn't feel overwhelming as a high fantasy. So really suggest this book. For my final book, I have Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier. I have to say, she's my favorite fantasy author at the moment. This book in particular was very good. I heard about it through various influencers, and I have to say it was a little bit different than I expected. You know, a lot of people were saying, oh, if you really like beautiful prose and if you love rich storytelling and they like talking about landscape in a beautiful way and nature in a beautiful way, then read this book. And I agree with that, but I feel like there's a lot more the story has to offer, and that's why I'm suggesting it. This book is about true love, but not the true love that we tend to think of. While it does have a little bit of that, a lot more of the true love of family, and what you will go through in order to keep your family safe and to protect them. Let me read the description right here. So lovely Sorsha is the 7th child and only daughter of Lord Colum of Seven Waters, bereft of a mother, and she is comforted by her 6 brothers who love and protect her. Sorsha is the light in their lives. They are determined that she know only contentment. But Sorsha's joy is shattered when her father is bewitched by his new wife, an evil enchantress who binds her brothers with a terrible spell, a spell that only Sorsha can lift by staying silent. So this book is basically based on the fairy tale where the young princess has her brothers turned into swans, and it is her job to transform them back. And she has to do a lot of tasks in order to do that. As you read this book, you really recognize what love of family will make you do. And it elevates it to this almost noble pursuit. And I have to say, I so love this book. I love Sorsha. I loved her brothers. There is a little bit of romantic interest. I love that too. It was just a beautiful book. Yes, the nature is pretty, but there's also some darker themes in here. She has to go through a lot of hardship, basically, to get her brothers to come back to her. The love story in here is also very beautiful, but I wouldn't say it takes main stage. That happens later on in the novel. But really what you're rooting for the entire time is for her and her brothers to be reunited. It's a very easy read. You just start up in the beginning and it'll take you right to the very end. It's very compelling. It also feels very realistic. It's set in kind of the early Ireland and early Britain, kind of the time when they are very much at odds with each other, and there's a lot of warfare going on between the two. While the author did even say this is one of her first novels, so she didn't do a lot of research, it did make you feel like you're rooted in the real world, which I found to be really fascinating. But there are enough aspects of fantasy to make it very engaging and kind of imaginative and just a little bit different than our own day-to-day. Really powerful story. It's my number 1. I really can't say enough good things about this book. I love the second book as well. Really good. This author, all her series tend to be following generations. So this book will follow first generation, next book will follow second generation, so on and so forth. She also has many other series that I really love. So Juliet Marillier, this is very good. Her Wolfskin saga is also very good. I might have a video later talking about that one. For an honorable mention, I'm currently in the middle of a winter storm outside, so there's actually like a ton of snow right now and ice. So my suggestion, just from the ambience that I'm sitting in, is reading Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is a book about a young Jewish woman debt collector, and she's very good at her job, so much so that she claims she can turn anything into gold. It's a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, and she's set in the Russian winter time, and a Fey lord hears that she can turn things into gold, and he happens to need gold. So there's a lot of stuff that ensues from this problem. Again, very engaging read, multiple point of views from different women in the story. They're all pretty strong characters. I will not say the romance is the strongest aspect of this plot. So if you're going in for romance, don't read it for this. But if you're going for winter vibes and really interesting female main characters and really well-written story, read Spinning Silver. You won't be disappointed. It's perfect season to do it. I just really loved it. I think that what makes fantasy so special is that, like mythology, it kind of removes us and adds a little bit of whimsy to our day-to-day life. Kind of takes away the monotonous things that we take for granted and replaces it with more fantastical creatures or magic powers. But at the end of the day, we're all very human and we go through the same experiences, and it's cool to see humans go through something that's so different than what we're used to on the day-to-day, but still learn the same lessons and still be heroes, come out of, you know, terrible situations and be able to show that they are resilient. I just really felt like all these reads really pushed this idea of someone who went through something that was very difficult but ends up conquering it and becoming even stronger throughout the process. It was very engaging. Again, a lot of depth, not so much drama, maybe some political drama, but not much more. And I hope that you get a chance to check out some of these books. If any of them sounded interesting to you, comment down below. If you've read any of them before and you have your own perspective or take on them, I love more dialogue on the topic. And please like my video if you'd like to see more reading content, and have a wonderful day.